Hi, welcome. My name is Charlotte. I love colorful and sparkly makeup. Today I'm going to do a check-in summary finale to my plan to pan for 2024. I feel like this is not really the kind of video that brings new people to someone's channel, but just in case you're new here, my channel is all about loving and appreciating makeup while being critical of consumption and capitalism. If that sounds interesting to you, then like and subscribe. I'll start by saying that when I filmed my 2024 plan to pan, my channel was really new. I was also relatively new to panning, and I also had pretty recently come off of a longer term no-buy, so my makeup was really a mix of very old products and very new products that I didn't know very well and that didn't have a lot of progress on them yet. So I think because of all that, where I was at in January 2024 was quite different from where I'm at now in December 2024. My collection has changed, some of my makeup preferences have also changed, and I think as a result my panning goals have changed a little bit. So really what I'm doing is giving you a disclaimer for why certain items kind of got abandoned throughout the year. But it's not all failures. I had a good amount of success toward the end of 2024 finishing up a lot of items, but there are some successes here in this pile. I think throughout 2024, the main place I had success in panning was complexion makeup, which is not that unusual. The first item that I had a goal on was this e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. I had set the goal to just hit pan in this, and as you can see, I did manage to do that. That didn't take me too long, I don't think. But after hitting that goal, I really shifted my focus to the liquid version of this same primer. So I haven't used this consistently in a while, but I am thinking about going back to it because I really do like this primer from e.l.f. So we started off on a high note, but now I have a complete flop to share with you. This is the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer. And I explained in my last video that I don't know if this primer works for me. I would say it's about 1/3 to halfway done. This is just a little mini size. And I do have another one of this in backup, which I decided that I would like to get rid of. I've been trying to find a home for it. It would be nice to go through this, but I'm not sure. I'm just really not sure how I feel about gripping primers. And I also have the Jelly Pop primer in my collection now, which I purchased in 2024 and turned out to be a real mistake. If you want to know more about my thoughts on that, you can check out my tier ranking new makeup video, which I will link below. But the bottom line is I shouldn't have gripping primers in my collection, and I have two. And I didn't make any progress on this whatsoever. I think I tried using it again like 2 or 3 times throughout the entire year and quickly learned that I was not interested in panning this in any kind of dedicated way. I still want to keep trying to make gripping primers work for me, but it's always a risk, it's always an experiment. I also talked about the tinted moisturizer from ColourPop. This is a pretty fresh tinted moisturizer, and I have the shade Light 8N. This is a product that I used to use as a holy grail and just repurchase. I had a bunch of backups at one point, and I still have 1 tube of this in my collection. I panned one of these in 2023, and then I successfully panned this one in 2024. This was close to full, I think, when I brought it in at the beginning of the year. So it takes me about a year to use one of these. They're quite large for a foundation product, and I still have one in my collection. I said in my previous video that I didn't mind having it kicking around in my collection. I just didn't want to have like backups of it because it's a very light coverage product and it no longer really suits my everyday preferences. But that tube is really old at this point. Like, it's at most 4 years old, at least 3 years old. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm gonna like spend this next year trying to pan it. I think more likely I'll just use it when I feel like it and kind of keep an eye on the scent and just declutter it if I have to. But I'm really pleased with the fact that I was able to move 2 of those out of my collection through dedicated panning. That was a huge success for me. This one is another success. I managed to finish my CoverGirl Smoothers Concealer in the shade Light. I really enjoyed this product. It's a cream concealer. I did not dig all the way down in the packaging, and you can see from the previous picture that I really didn't have that much of this left at the beginning of the year. I didn't go through this particularly fast because I didn't use that much of it at a time, but I really enjoyed this concealer. I won't repurchase it just because there's other things that I want to try and that I, have tried and that I now have in my collection to work through. But I was so glad to be able to get my money's worth out of this. I think I paid $8 Canadian for this and I thoroughly got my money's worth. Okay, this is a regular on my channel. This is the ColourPop Super Shock highlighter in the shade Lunch Money. I tried to pan this in 2023. I tried to pan this in 2024, and I don't think there's any visible progress on this from essentially 2 years of everyday usage. Like, I've used this hundreds of times. In 2024 alone, I have 120 tracked uses on this. I'm very light-handed with it. I tend to use it with a brush. And I think the pan may have even shrunk since the footage from January 2024. That's because I pressed down on it, because this is a putty formula. So I know that it sort of like can sometimes collect around the sides. And so I squished it down just to sort of see how deep it was, and that caused the pan itself to shrink a little bit. I had initially rolled this in because the packaging broke back in 2023, and I was worried it was going to dry out because these Super Shock things I think are really hit or miss. Some of them dry out super quickly. This has had the broken packaging now for 2 years, and it didn't really dry out. Like, it's still quite usable. But from pressing it down, I did create some like cracks on the surface that have not filled back in. So that tells me that it is drying out a little bit. I'm not sure what the future is for this in my collection. I'm really, really sick of it. I did end up purchasing the Phytosurgence version of this shade, which I said in January 2024 was sort of something I was holding off on doing until I could finish this. But I broke down and bought that. They're very similar. It's just the most basic shade. It's not really a color on my skin tone. It's just looks like a little bit of a sheen. So it's not an exciting product, and neither is the thing I got to replace it. So part of me wants to just stick it out and use this for another like 3 years or whatever it takes, but I don't know. Is it really worth it? There are other things in my collection already that I am missing out on using because I keep trying to pan this. But you guys are probably sick of hearing about that anyway, because it's been in every project at this point. And I think actually this is just about 5 years old in my collection as well. So these next couple items I've actually decluttered in the past year. The first is the e.l.f. Putty Bronzer in the shade Tan Lines. I no longer have this. I scooped it out, and I really like using those putty containers for freaking projects, so I got rid of that. My goal was just to hit pan, and I was really, really close to hitting pan on that. It was my only bronzer for a very long time, and I did manage to hit pan on that. I expanded the pan a little bit, but I've since discovered bronzers that I like much, much more, and I was not really sad to see that leave my collection. The other item is the e.l.f. Putty Blush in the shade Tahiti, and I also wanted to just hit pan on this. I have a very deep dip in it, so I probably could have done that, but after using it a few times, I was just reminded of reasons why I don't like this formula. And this applies to the bronzer too, but this is a cream to powder formula, and I find that it dries really powdery on my skin, and it's not a texture that I like the feel of or the look of. I kept this around for so long because I love the color so much. It's a beautiful, beautiful neutral pink. Looks like a perfect little light flush. And actually, I recently picked up this shade from Phytosurgence, which is called Simmer. It's a pretty good shade dupe for me of the shade Tahiti. I think Tahiti, you can see, is like a little warmer in the pot, but when they're blended out over the cheeks, they look very, very similar. Definitely similar enough for my preferences. And I just like the formula of the Phytosurgence one a lot more. It's not so drying. So I did not hit my goal on this, but I'm not sad about it. This is leaving my collection and I will scoop it out and keep this handy little pot. For blushes, I had talked about this shade Roosevelt from ColourPop. This is my oldest blush and I was hoping to finish it this year. I really do enjoy the shade of this. I think it's described as a mahogany color. It's like a rich terracotta brown shade, I would say. This is now 5 years old in my collection. I stopped trying to pan this about midway through the year, but it was still working pretty well at that point, and I still enjoyed the shade. The thing with this is just that I realized this is a shade I gravitate toward, and I have multiple options very similar to it in my collection. And I realized that panning this was just taking my attention away from things that I enjoyed a little bit more while they were in their prime. And I don't want to constantly be focusing on makeup that's past its prime, because then I get around to my other makeup and it's also past its prime at that point. Like, I don't need to wait until that point to focus on and love and use my makeup. So I decided to put this away, and instead, when I wanted to reach for a mahogany shade, to reach for those other shades that I have in my collection. Now, this does smell a little bit funky, I would say, so I think I'm going to retire this from my collection and keep it in a sentimental makeup box. This has sentimental value to me because it was the first blush I ever owned, and for so long it was the only color I ever thought I needed. But yeah, it used to have like a vanilla-y scent, and now it has that kind of like chemical-y scent at this point. So I'm gonna retire this, and I'm not that sad about it. I'm glad we had a bit of a run this past year, but I completely stand by wanting to focus on newer things, favorite things, and trying to finish those things before they become old and musty. I'd say it was in that spirit that I rolled in this shade Watermelon from e.l.f. This is one of their little bite-sized face duos. These are really cute. I have 3 of them. I said I wanted to hit pan on this knowing that it was definitely a pie-in-the-sky goal and I was probably not going to reach it. I did not, and in fact, I really barely reached for this past year. It's on my chopping block to declutter. But yeah, this just sort of turned out not to be a favorite. And that's okay. I didn't try very hard on this one. Okay, I talked about wanting to finish the shade Layover, which was a cream bullet lipstick from ColourPop. I did that. I had success with this. So when I had gotten basically to the bottom of this, I scraped out whatever was below here in the tube, and I combined it with this other tube of the same shade that I had in backup, and I pressed them into this cute little blush compact that I bought online. This sort of dupes the vibes for me of like one of the Tower 28 blushes or the Milani, something. I like this like little clear plastic packaging. It's very satisfying to me. So this is the full tube of my backup lipstick along with the remaining product that was in the tube I was panning in 2024. So technically that tube that I talked about last year is not fully done, which is a little bit crazy because it was such a small amount that was remaining above the packaging. In any case, I'm pleased to have this in a compact. I was mainly using those up as blush. This is a shade I really love. It comes from that same era of my makeup journey where I was buying a lot of ColourPop products and then just repurchasing them. So I kept certain things in backup that have just like been in backup now for years. So I'm glad to have that backup tube gone. Like these, I can now get rid of both of these tubes and take them to Sephora for recycling. But I'm definitely not mad about still having this shade as an option in my blush collection. This is what I'm wearing today. It's a very like natural, neutral, bronzy type blush because there's quite a lot of brown in it. This is no longer my favorite shade to reach for, but it's still a nice option and it's a nice formula. And I do sort of consider this to be a goal met. I also talked about this other ColourPop lipstick, which is called CA Love, and I said I would like to loosely focus on this in 2024 and maybe use up half of it. I definitely didn't reach that goal, and I sort of didn't try very hard to reach for this through 2024. This is another thing that was just sort of replaced in my collection with something that suits my preferences a little bit better, and I didn't want to focus all my attention on panning this older item while I had newer things that I love more sitting around. The thing that sort of replaced this for me is the Merit Signature lipstick in the shade Tiger. These are both just sort of like nude brick reds, which is a shade I really enjoy, and I like having an option for that. But this Merit version is just a little bit less opaque than the ColourPop Cream Bullet lipstick, and that really is what I'm looking for these days in a lipstick. So yeah, it's what I'm wearing today. I love it, and this is the one I want to focus my love and attention on, so that was a goal not met. The last lip product that I had intended to finish in 2024 was the e.l.f. Cookie Dream lip gloss, which is like a black lip gloss. I had very few uses remaining in this at the beginning of the year, but I just ended up using them in 2024 and finishing that like in January, I think. I did get rid of that tube already, so I don't have that to show you, but yeah, that was a nice satisfying lip gloss empty because I really loved that shade, and I was so glad to be able to finish it and use it all up. The final product that I wanted to pan in 2024 was this pencil. This is an eye pencil from CoverGirl. It's just a basic black brown shade. You'll be able to see that this is much smaller than it was in January, so I'm happy with the progress I've made on this. This was another one that I rolled over from trying to pan all year in 2023, and I'm very close to being done with this. I think it still has a few more sharpens in it, which might mean a few more months. In my previous video, I talked about wanting to purchase the Victoria Beckham brown eye pencil, and I was holding off until I could finish this. That's another one that I ultimately did break down and buy that just this past like week or so. I don't feel too bad about that. I held off on purchasing any brown replacement eyeliner for 2 full years. And this is just a very basic pencil liner. It's not a very creamy or blendable formula, so I really just wanted to try one of that kind of eyeliner that people are always like smudging out all over their lash line. This one doesn't really do it. But for now, I'm still waiting to open the other one to give myself a little bit more of a push to make more progress on this. This was not a goal met for 2024, but I am really happy with the progress I've made. And that is my update for my plan to pan from 2024. This is not all of the makeup items that I actually finished in 2024. A lot of those I ended up finishing through my Makeup Hanging On for Dear Life project pan. Stay tuned for an update on that coming soon. And I will also soon be posting a video talking about my plan to pan for 2025 and what kinds of projects and panning you can expect to see on my channel. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched, I hope you will stick around for more videos, and I hope that I will see you soon. Bye!